With the release of Star Citizen's very first jump points in the latest PTU patch, alongside testing some of the tech necessary to get server meshing up and running, our first visit to a new star system, Pyro, looks to finally be actually just around the corner. And not just around the corner as in 4 years from now, like I said 4 years ago. Wow, I've been covering Star Citizen a while. And while it may just on the surface look like it's just more content with some tech, it actually signals that Star Citizen has reached a critical point in its development. This, after all, is the tech that's going to make Star Citizen's future as it's been envisioned actually possible. Success then now rests on how well their new tech works, but also critically on what's announced at their upcoming Citizencon live event this month. Hey guys, Morphologist here, and shortly I'm going to take you over why Pyro and server meshing together are critical to Star Citizen's short and long-term success. Then I'll go over why what's announced at Citizencon can be as equally critical. Hint, it has something to do with Squadron 42. With these together then, you'll get why this is Star Citizen's big moment. If by the end you think I did a good job, and I deserve it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support. One thing that could be critical to your personal security though is the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN, who now go a step further with their new threat protection service. It works against intrusive ads, malware, trackers, and malicious websites. I've already been personally using them for years after getting fed up with free VPNs that just didn't work, so now I can access IP-restricted websites while I work from abroad, all while protecting my personal information. I also use the app on my iPad to let me watch shows like Star Trek Lower Decks and Strange New World Season 2, which are both frustratingly unavailable in Taiwan. Yeah, the fan service in Lower Decks can be a bit cheesy at times, but I'm a sucker for it. So if you're looking for a reliable VPN service and you want to help support the channel, head on over to nordvpn.com/morphologist to get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus get 4 additional months for free. That's nordvpn.com/morphologist, and oh, if none of this really works for you, you can always get your money back with their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just one more quick thing before we continue on. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be traveling to the US for Citizencon this year, and if you plan on going, please come and say hi because I've got some souvenirs for you if you're a member of the Armco community. I've got them only in limited numbers though, so it's going to be first come first serve. All you got to do is show me that you're a member of Armco by showing me that you're in Discord, and that's it. Right now, Star Citizen has begun testing the separation of the replication layer from the main DGS server shards, which all that means in simple terms is that they're testing a technology that they need one step before server meshing, perhaps one of the harder steps than the server meshed environment itself. And just so you understand how close we are, this replication layer is what helps the servers communicate between each other that critical information about player status and entities around the universe. This means that the Pyro star system, along with server meshing, could be introduced in the test servers as early as the end of this year. And this signals a very big moment for Star Citizen because server meshing and a new star system are more than just tech and more play area. It's a proof of concept along with the technology that's required to make the vision of Star Citizen possible. Let me explain. So, server meshing does more than just what it may seem to do on the surface, and that's to add more people into a play area. It's actually a critical technology for Star Citizen to be able to expand its universe out. Sure, the most obvious thing is that it gives you more people in an area, and that's going to be beneficial for Star Citizen to have a more functional economy with checks and balances. But it more importantly, and maybe also obviously, offers the ability for Star Citizen to add additional gameplay space. A single server is only capable of handling a finite amount of entities within a play space, and entities, if you're not sure what they are, is a game development term used to describe pretty much every object, visible or otherwise, within a gameplay space. They can be anywhere from a rock on the surface of a planet all the way up to an entire planet itself. The challenge for a single server is that it needs to track each of these objects in near real time, as the game is online and needs to properly represent consistent information across multiple clients, or in other words, across multiple players' game sessions. To give you a simplified example, if a player flies a ship to a location with other players, the server's gonna update that information so that everybody in that area can see that the player is flying that ship. Otherwise, that player would effectively be invisible. The developers of Star Citizen looked to mitigate this issue somewhat with the introduction of a new technology that they called object container streaming, which is a bit more advanced than just calling things that are outside of the player's view, because this tech was more about server performance than just player-side performance. And it also consequently is a technology that ties into server meshing itself. Without this technology, Stanton, the star system we have today, wouldn't be able to have the amount of planets it does today, because a single server couldn't handle all of these entities simultaneously. Even still though, through this technology, the game servers have pretty much reached their limit and struggle to maintain anywhere near a industry standard 30 tick rate, which is just a metric that refers to how many times a server is updated per second. A low tick rate manifests itself in players feeling like things are not registering, or things are visually lagging, or AI not responding at all to players, which is something that if you've played Star Citizen, you've probably experienced pretty frequently. So what server meshing is supposed to do is allow Star Citizen to split the load between multiple servers to help them maintain a better tick rate for an overall better player experience, but importantly, it will enable them to extend the gameplay space out through the mesh environment to an indefinite amount of space depending on how many star systems they're able to produce. The only limiting factor then becomes how many things that CIG can make to fill that area. But server meshing is more than just about helping the performance of clients and expanding gameplay space. It helps things that are maybe less obvious. Things like missions, the amount of NPCs you can see, the functionality of the economy, and even things like base building are all dependent on a meshed environment. By splitting the load, CIG can create more complex mission logic for more interesting missions with twists and turns. It'll also enable more NPCs in the gameplay space. Think NPC traffic coming in and out of orbit, flying around stations and between star systems. These give us opportunities to interact, to pirate, to protect. Something that would go a long way to help make the world of Star Citizen feel a lot more real and immersive, with proper checks and balances to prevent somebody from making too much money without any risk. And then you've got things like base building. A meshed environment will enable Star Citizen to be able to handle the amount of entities players will spawn. The concept of server meshing along with the replication layer are difficult concepts for players to wrap their minds around. It's not easy to advertise this technology in any kind of marketing strategy. The things that people see, touch, feel, the tangible experiences that players have in a game are instead the big draws to getting more people to fund the project. That's why Pyro is so incredibly critical to Star Citizen's success at this big moment. Pyro is the way that they're going to demonstrate this technology, along with the jump point functionality, which is the method that you travel between stars in the Star Citizen universe, to demonstrate that it's possible and that this can be expanded out into future star systems. And this is why we should expect to see Pyro to release alongside server meshing and not separately as some people are speculating. However, for many, talk of this new technology and a star system being close, without any sort of idea of when it's going to come, may not be enough to reignite interest and turn around the declining funding in 2023. This coming on the heels of them acquiring a new studio and nearly doubling their payroll. And that leads us to Citizencon, the other component of Star Citizen's big moment in 2023. So Star Citizen is hosting a big event this year called Citizencon in LA on the 21st and 22nd, and it's their first big event in 4 years. There isn't currently any public information about what they're going to be talking about in this 2-day event, but the fact that it's 2 days and it's the first in 4 years, and the fact that the last one was canceled because, quote, they were focusing on working on Squadron 42, signals quite a lot about what they may be planning to say inside this event. Certainly, it should signal that Star Citizen is ready to present some tangible progress, but in my opinion, it's gotta be progress that's followed up with tangible things that players can experience in the very near future. Promises will probably not be enough to quell frustration, as that's all we've had for the past 4 to 5 years. But I want to return to Squadron 42 because an announcement about this single-player game in Star Citizen is a lot bigger of a deal than it may first appear. Now, if you don't know what Squadron 42 is, you won't be the only one. Squadron 42 hasn't been publicly advertised, since 2018 when the last trailer was released. And it's a big deal because the majority, possibly as much as 90% of CIG's resources are rumored to be dedicated to it. I mean, CIG straight up told us that their focus is now on Squadron, and it has been this way since at least the last Citizencon. And there have been rumblings that there's going to be an announcement this year about its release, with plenty of evidence to suggest that the rumors are true. The upcoming release of the F-8C, for example, which is a ship that's only available to players after completing the campaign. The removal of the store page earlier this year, which likely signals that they're going to be increasing the price to a full release price. The fact that this is the first Citizencon after they talked about that they wanted to keep their heads down to focus on Squadron. Then you have the fact that Chris Roberts returned to the UK some years ago with the explicit purpose of focusing on the release of Squadron. Everything's pointing to it being very soon, and this would be a windfall for Star Citizen. The first reason is that it would be the first product that the studio has delivered since its founding over 10 years ago. The second would be that the game would finally start to pay for itself through sales, since up until now, Squadron 42's funding has come primarily from Star Citizen ship sales, which is taking away resources from Star Citizen. Should that game pay for itself, then that could return funding to Star Citizen to enable them to continue working on it and producing more content. But I also think that a successful release of Squadron could also get people excited about the universe of Star Citizen. It would create a foundation of lore that would draw people in and get them invested in the universe. That can only be a benefit. So then, with jump points already in the PTU servers and them testing the replication layer, an announcement of Pyro and server meshing coming soon seems very likely with Citizencon. But also, the announcement of Squadron 42 could give a huge boost to the game and finally shift resources back to the game, which desperately needs it. These things together would restore enormous confidence in CIG and of course in the game Star Citizen. This then is perhaps the big moment for Star Citizen, when they can finally show us instead of just tell us that they can achieve their goals. I'm personally rooting for Star Citizen right now, and I have a good amount of confidence that Citizencon will be it if they can follow through. But what do you guys think? In this big moment for Star Citizen, do you think that they're going to come out on top? What are your predictions for Citizencon? Let me know down below, and of course, I hope to see you guys at Citizencon this year. I'll see you in the next one.